Welcome to the Prodigal and the Priest podcast, a podcast about faith, sports, and two friends from different cultures. Here are your hosts, Joey Scansella and Father Paul Bechter.
I feel like weeping in my chair.
Yeah, you know that feeling when you record the most brilliant 4 minutes of open air podcast material and then you realize, oh, forgot to hit record.
Forgot to hit record on any of it. That was an epic first 4 minutes.
It was probably the best 4 minutes.
Oh my gosh. It probably
just
was.
Absolutely speaking, the best 4 minutes.
We were talking about how did it even, we can't even redo it. We're just going to go into the question. Today is our Friday edition, our question edition, Prodigal and the Priest and Me. We need a new intro. That's what we were saying that says Prodigal and the Priest and Me to remind people that today is about the questions. And so we want to get into the questions. Before we do that, though, Father Paul has a little, PSA?
A little retraction.
Oh.
Retracciones. Augustine at the end of his life, St. Augustine, to you anyway.
Just to me.
St. Augustine published a book or a little thing, kind of a book called Retracciones, like taking back all the stuff he'd written because he wrote so much, taking back the things that he no longer agreed with because he actually would change his mind on things and think through stuff. This is my first Retractio.
There you go.
And it's about last week's episode where we were talking about indulgences. And just one little detail on that, I mentioned during there, I said, you can gain an indulgence for yourself, or you can offer it to someone else, either living or dead. And that's not true. You can offer it for someone who has passed away, someone in purgatory, but not for another living person. That's very clearly stated in canon law and in the Book of Indulgences itself, the Enchiridion Indulgentiarum from the Apostolic Penitentiary. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that.
Which, I mean, you can offer sacrifice for somebody here.
Oh, yeah,
you can do that,
it's
but
just
not
specific
the plenary indulgence.
Yeah, the nature of indulgences, which have to do with the apostolic authority to bind and to loose, given
temporal punishment, right?
Yeah,
which you can't really remove it if they're not dead, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, you can gain them for yourselves,
right?
But it's not the kind of thing just because of what it is, and you can see the last episode, and hopefully that'll make sense why. But yeah, somebody reached out to me and just mentioned like, hey, you said that thing, but I wasn't sure about it. And I was like, no, I didn't say that. That's not right. And I actually did. And I said very clearly. So that's my retractio.
That person, we won't say their name, but they're very smart. We approve of you listening. Thank you.
Yeah.
Smart person. So, all right, well, let's jump into some questions here. Okay. What do you all, I'm just taking it as Joey and Father Paul, you all, want for Christmas? That's the first question. Start off with a bang. Boom.
What do I want for Christmas?
You know what would be cool?
I don't know.
We want our parish to thrive. We want awesome things to happen at St. Anne's. I mean, eventually, I think it would be cool if we did like some more stuff for the podcast. You know, like some fat heads on the wall, or like some, I don't know, like if we had 2 camera angles, right? But then that takes 2 cameras and not our iPhone that we put on this stand that falls. Like right now it's looking a little suspect. Like, is it pointing to the ceiling or is it recording us? So
it wants to shoot out of that holder, that spring-loaded holder, and like project across the room.
So we have high-tech stuff, yeah, little things like that. I think to intro I'm really the visionary for this podcast. Let's face it. I would love for like the beginning of segments
to
have
a guest that's invited onto the podcast for every episode.
Although Father Edwin called me right before this one, so I was thinking about phoning him in, phoning a friend.
Well, I'm going to be gone for some time after the new year. I'll be taking some vacay.
Must be nice.
Yeah, must be nice.
But yeah,
Friday.
Friday.
That's something we talked about in that glorious 4 minutes that didn't get recorded. I learned what Friday was.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, I say the same thing in this podcast that I tell my wife every birthday. She asks me, like, what do you want? And I'm really like, as an American, I have everything I need and want. Like, very blessed, very, very blessed. And so, yeah, I just would like to be rich and famous. I don't know.
Yeah. I want everything. I want all the books.
All the books.
If y'all won't get me all the books, I'll take all the books. If that's what you're asking.
Non-heretical books.
No, just all of them.
Good bottle of scotch, whatever people want to drop off,
No, the same answer. Been extraordinarily
a good bottle of scotch.
No,
same answer.
Extraordinarily blessed. Couldn't possibly ask for anything.
But thank you for whoever asked that. They asked anonymously, but actually they didn't ask anonymously. They put Jimmy John's as their name, but I don't think the store Jimmy John's is asking what we want for Christmas. Maybe they do. Maybe they heard though about.
Maybe this is Jimmy John.
Maybe, or maybe they heard the episode about sandwiches.
Well, maybe they did. And I have a confession to make together with my retractio from earlier. Now it's my confessio of praise of Jimmy John's because I went there for lunch earlier today.
What'd you get? I
got the 13, the original Italian.
I always do the turkey
for the confession. I got the giant size so I could have some for dinner too, because it's going to be a long day. We got confessions and stuff.
There you go. All right, let's jump into another one. If someone could only make one pilgrimage to any holy site other than Vatican City, other than the Vatican, what holy site would you recommend?
Jerusalem, 100%. And if you meant to say other than the Vatican and Jerusalem, then I would say Lourdes. I loved going to Lourdes.
Yeah, I'm going to take out Jerusalem.
Or the Holy Land.
Yeah, or the Holy Land, because, that should be on people's bucket list, right?
I think so. It was some of the, I loved being there.
Although, so when I studied abroad, Franciscan has a very well-known study abroad program in Gaming, Austria. And so it's an old monastery that was taken over by the campus, and then beautiful. About an hour, I want to say, east of Vienna. And so that's actually where I met my wife. Even though we were at college, we met really for the first time and started talking and getting to know one another and fell in love in the Austrian.
And the rest is history.
The hills are alive with the sound of music. You know what I'm talking about? Sound of music? Anyway.
I'm trying to pretend like adult, but yes, I do.
So.
That reference I actually get.
What was my point here? My point was that.
Pilgrimage site?
Oh, so I promised my parents, though, in 2008. Thank you. They were just like, listen. They were very nervous about us going to the Holy Land, which I would imagine you kind of get that a lot, probably, right?
Yeah, people get nervous, and there have been times where it was a better time to travel, and every time I went there several times, and I lived there for 7 months as well in a stretch, but I also visited several times while I was in Rome, and from, 2011 until now, I never felt unsafe at all in Israel. I very much enjoyed my time there. I thought it was a really great place to visit.
Yeah.
And to live when I lived there. And the difference between sort of like the general anxiety about traveling way over there and what it was like and the situation on the ground was a stark difference.
Yeah. So I promised them we wouldn't travel there. They said you pretty much have free reign to go wherever else you want because we would have weekends. We'd have every Friday, Saturday, Sunday off to travel, and then we had 2 10-day breaks built into the semester. One to Rome and Assisi, and then the other we could do whatever we want. Me and my brother ended up going to Lourdes, and then a little small town of Contiac in France, which is where St. Joseph, that apparition of St. Joseph was. So I think we talked about it in the St. Joseph episode.
With the stairs? That's not the stairs one.
That's not the stairs. That's in the United States, in New Mexico or Arizona,
That's
right?
in Italy. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know.
There you go.
Yeah, that is in the States. I think New Mexico.
Arizona? Oh, okay. We both were like, New Mexico? Okay. So anyway, went a lot of places, saw a lot of things. I'll toss out this. I'm going to toss out one that I really highly recommend and one controversial, okay? My pilgrimage that the school led to Poland, amazing. And in this like format, they first took us to see Our Lady of Czestochowa.
Yeah.
Okay. After that, we went and visited Auschwitz.
Yeah.
And Maximilian Kolbe's cell.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we went to Divine Mercy.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing like Auschwitz to Divine Mercy to the miraculous healings associated with Czestochowa, like just that Poland was one of the most profound experiences I've ever had in my life. We also did go to John Paul II's hometown, Wadowice.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing as well. So I'll just say that Poland, amazing. A little bit more controversial, but I'll just say I had an amazing experience and a very Christocentric experience in Medjugorje. I know that's not for all people, and I know there's been some craziness also associated with it. So I do want to put that out there, but it was just a very Christocentric, great experience, like focused on the sacraments, on the Lord, felt very close to him. There was amazing experience of you climb this hill on rocks, and it was just, very profound for me. So
yeah, I've heard the same thing. I've always been kind of on the sidelines with Medjugorje. I just never went there, but I mean, there's some people I know very well and respect very highly who have had, I think, a very profound experience there and can see a lot of good in it, even with some of the controversy that's been mixed up with the place as well.
Yeah. Other places just highly recommend, I think in our honorable mentions would be like what? What are some for you? I know Knock, Ireland was pretty cool. Our Lady of Knock. I didn't know if you know this, but it's the second most healings to Lourdes for a Marian apparition. A lot of people go there who are struggling with infertility.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I have friends who went to Knock, but I never went.
Ireland's a cool place.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
I love Ireland. Loreto is on my honorable mentions. So little town in Italy, in central Italy.
Yeah, I kind of took Italy out of it, even though they said Vatican City, but I agree with you. I think that because Assisi.
Yeah, Assisi.
No.
You
liked it?
I like Assisi.
Okay.
But I like other places too.
Right. Or did you visit Padre Pio's hometown when you were in Italy?
Yeah, I did. That was a really big deal for me. What is it called again? I'm trying to think.
You're like it was a major deal.
Yeah, but it was in like 2008. It was before I was a seminarian when I was in Rome with University of Dallas on our semester abroad.
Oh, awesome.
What is that place called? Something al Rotondo. San Giovanni al Rotondo.
There you go.
San Giovanni Rotondo without the al.
Got it.
Yeah, man, I could tell a long story about how much that place and that weekend meant, but I'll just leave it as worthy pilgrimage site.
Yeah. Any other?
I've been back since then. Actually, I went back like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay. Any other like honorable mentions for you? Any places that just stick out over time?
I don't know. Well, Paris, like there's tons of places worthy of making a pilgrimage to in Paris. Rue de Bac and Saint-Sulpice and
we stayed a night in
you stayed with the adoration,
the all night adoration at
on Montmartre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Yeah, so we went to Notre Dame
That's
and then went there. And
I love that basilica.
Yeah.
I stayed a night there as well.
It's like you take this escalator up to the top of the basilica,
Yeah, it's
and
up
you're
on a mountain.
being like peppered kind of with people who are trying to. I don't know if this
Sell
was
you
your,
stuff,
Yeah,
yeah.
and like just
There's just a constant kind of like food and knickknacks and things that
Yeah.
everybody's trying to sell you out there, and then you go inside and it's like, wow, they've had adoration constantly for 150 years.
Yes.
I think that's right. 150.
I know, a long time.
A very long time.
24-hour. Like, and the monstrance raises.
Yeah,
Did you see it?
Yeah, yeah.
Raise up, like, during. So we got to explain it.
yeah.
So,
I love that
so
place.
during the mass, the monstrance is on I would assume a hydraulic lift. And it like comes down during the mass because the mass is being celebrated.
Mhm.
And then as soon as the mass is done, it's hydraulic lift back up. It's amazing. And so for me as a pilgrim, I don't know if it was similar for you as if you were a seminarian at that point or a priest, but
Seminarian.
okay, so for us, we had to sign up on a list when we got there, and you got like housing for €5 or maybe nothing. I don't super cheap. As long
but-
as you do a holy hour.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Fantastic place. I love Paris. Love France in general. Lisieux was really cool.
I didn't get there.
Bars where
Yeah.
Saint Jean Vianney is, patron of diocesan priests.
Mm-hmm.
Southern France, I went there for retreats a whole bunch, kind of near Avignon. And like Avignon's all right. But just that whole area, like the Provençal area, and the whole connection with Mary Magdalene in the tradition that like sort of after the resurrection and ascension, like this love for Christ like drove her all the way out there. That's a really wonderful area.
And I would love to do the Camino one day. I mean, a pilgrimage in itself to,
Get the steps in.
Yeah, like at the St. James Cathedral there in Spain with the thurible that is as large as this room. And
Yeah. Thought of another one. Seville during Holy Week. Really cool to go to Sevilla. They have like all of these processions, tons and tons of processions like you've never seen before during Holy Week, and they're famous for it. And that was a really special place to like be involved with Holy Week and Easter. It was in Seville.
Awesome. Well, we've given enough on this question.
Yeah, that's basically we're just
basically
listing things now.
we just named
Where have
every
you been?
place. Yeah.
Tell me.
Okay, here's one from a listener, anonymous. When I was in high school, I went to confession with a priest at my Catholic school. In that confession, he told me that any lie is a sin, no matter how big or how small it is. And I guess no matter what the intention was behind it, aka a white lie is just as bad as a manipulative lie. Is it accurate to say that all sin is on the same level? Or would you say some sins could be worse than others? Well, we have just, there's kind of, I think they were going in one direction there, one a little bit. Obviously, we have two levels of sin, venial sin and mortal sin, right? Mortal sin separates and breaks that relationship with God. Venial weakens it. Do you want to address the confession, the white lie part?
The lie thing? Yeah. Yeah, I can. But yeah, so basic answer is like, yes, every lie is sinful. It's against the 8th commandment. But it is important, like, not every untruth is necessarily a lie. So to make that distinction, and it can sound like, twisting words a little bit.
So say that again.
Every lie is a sin, but maybe not every untruth is a lie. Yeah, very Jesuitical, right?
So give an example of that.
And I mean, and you can kind of get into the weeds here, and I know that there are legitimate differences of theological opinion on this. Without having done like so here I'm going to hedge my bets a little bit and be like, I would like to look into this more.
Okay.
To be really sure, but it's been my operating assumption that in like the Nazi case, right? You're in Amsterdam and you are harboring some Jewish people in your house,
Right.
and the Nazis knock on the door, and
Do you have anybody here?
yeah, do you have anybody here? Can you straight up say no and think they don't deserve to have this information? And so it's not a lie because it's telling like they don't have the right to hear the truth?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you have to like play with your words a little bit and say something that isn't exactly untrue? It's true in a sense, but it's like maybe not answering the question that they gave.
Right.
So, like, what's that? Or something. I would be terrible at that stuff.
You would be like,
Man, I don't know. Yeah. Man, I don't know. Man, I don't know. Yep.
always forget I have that drop in my back pocket.
It's so weird to hear myself in a drop like that. Yeah. So personally, I'm inclined more towards you have to be clever with your words because words matter. But I think that there is something to people having a right to the truth. Yeah, but I don't know. I need to.
I mean, that case
I
is
need
going to
to-
be very hard for people to argue that one, right? The Nazi example.
Yeah,
of
but
hard-
that
you
like
know,
so you take
that's
the
the
extreme. You take the extreme to make the principles at play really clear. But if you're gonna say that, well, no, in that case you can just say no. I don't have anybody here. You need to like actually have principles backing you up on that,
Right.
because you don't want to like trample those and then sort of open the door for all sorts of misunderstanding back in fuzzier cases.
Right.
So yeah, it's something I need to look into a little bit more if I'm being honest about it.
Okay.
If I'm not gonna lie,
We're not going to lie. We're gonna look into that.
I know that you're
But
not always obligated to tell like everything. Like the 8th commandment does not mean thou shalt over-explain. And I thought that was funnier than that. I need like a
Dude.
laugh track or something.
I'll
Thou
find one.
Thou
where-
shalt over-explain. And tell everybody everything to avoid lying. Like that's not a real thing either.
Right.
That's my laugh track. I'll just
I don't
laugh
have
at
laugh
my own
tracks, so
jokes.
I have crickets. Well, what about, so does that go into the other question they asked at the end? Is it accurate to say that all sins on the same level? I know I answered about the venial and the mortal, or would we say some are worse? I mean, we
No, for
definitely
sure,
say, yeah,
some
like,
are worse than others,
yeah.
and it's not just a
murder's worse than lying, probably, and like a small white lie, right?
yeah. And I mean, even so, like look at how Dante deals with this poetically, right? Like with the different levels of hell and of punishments corresponding to different types of mortal sin, like that there are ones that are worse than others, and
Right.
it has to do with the how to say it. What's the legal term? Sort of the level of premeditation to something, premeditation and rationality applied to it.
Right.
So Dante actually puts like sins of lust, for instance. Sins of lust are very common. They're maybe one of the most common serious sins, but they're not the most serious of the serious sins, if that makes
Right.
sense. Right? It doesn't mean that they're not a big deal to say engage in fornication or something. That's a mortal sin. That's very grave.
Right.
But it doesn't have the type of like human gravity to it where reason and stuff is applied
Right.
as betrayal, like being a traitor, those are the ones that Dante will say these are the worst possible sins because they're the most human, like they're engaging our human nature to its fullest.
Right.
Whereas sins of the passion or sins of the flesh, in some way kind of like take over through those through those desires. Like we can describe them as uncontrollable desires, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So like that's how he's weighing them, and I
Got it.
that's very Thomistic because it's Dante.
I mean, also it just gets very confusing because then you also have habitual sins, and then you have like, and what does that do?
Yeah.
And then you have also the principle in moral theology of double effect, right?
Yeah,
You know,
that's-
like, which I'm not saying is a sin. It's just all these
No, it's
things,
just something
you know,
to,
going
if
together.
you're going to understand it all,
Right. And
but
so,
the basic idea is like the level of gravity and level of culpability corresponds to your level of freedom. Sin has to be something that you freely commit. Nobody can force you to do it.
right.
If they force you to do something bad and break your will to do that, right, then it's not really you who's doing it. You're not culpable.
Right.
People who are truly addicted to things lose a lot of their freedom of the will.
Right.
And so culpability can be reduced in those circumstances.
Right. Hot
like-
take, though.
Yeah.
Would you say we're living in an era of more of that than like our parents' generation and before that because of technology?
Yeah, I would just to compare the parents, but I'm kind of reluctant about going too far down that road.
Right.
I don't know if you could hear it from my tone.
Yeah.
But, because
I could see it on your face too. I'm live here, but yeah.
Yeah. Because like if we go too far down that road and say, you know, people aren't free enough to say no to committing sins, right?
Mhm.
Then we're saying they're not free enough to like say yes to do virtuous things. That their freedom has been so severely reduced
Yeah.
by society that they're no longer capable of making human actions, whether bad or good.
Yeah.
Like freely chosen, reasoned actions. Yes, there are certainly stronger, like the technological age and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Has a pull on us that no generation before this has ever had to deal with in that way. But I don't want to take away people's freedom by saying like, so, you know, nobody's responsible for anything anymore.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Definitely makes sense. All right, we'll get some info, get back to you, which really means that hopefully we'll get back to you one day because I know I know we still have Patty waiting for her Byzantine question.
Oh, we're still thinking about it.
I'm putting this solely on Father Paul, that answer.
No, it's
there,
totally
so,
on me. It's
okay.
Just got to find a time. Call up the expert. We're going to make this the greatest answer to any question we've gotten.
Right. Okay, so
Mega episode.
one quick one and then one to end. Actually, my brother, John, submitted one. He submitted a few questions. I like this one. Lighthearted question. Thoughts on alternative main dishes for Thanksgiving? So obviously he submitted it a few weeks ago, like lasagna, ham. You know, how do you feel about those? Or were you turkey and straight like turkey on
Dude, I think
Thanksgiving?
for Thanksgiving, it's got to be turkey. Even
Gotta
when
be.
I was in Italy, it was turkey. We would do the pumpkin ravioli
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
as the primo, but the secondo is turkey.
Gotta be. Okay.
Uh,
I agree with that. I mean, I'm Italian, and yes, on every other holiday we would
Ham.
have lasagna, and I can be okay with ham as a side to turkey. You know, like it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
we're having turkey,
No, sure,
and
bring
here's
the
ham,
ham
too.
in.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. But like,
everyone's welcome.
yeah, there's a reason they pre-slice ham, but you carve a turkey. You know, like there's like a big thing to it. So
Okay.
okay, I
right,
love this
I'll go
question.
with that.
Father Paul, what is your reaction to activists' efforts to demonstrate the negative environmental impact of golf courses,
What?
use of water, fertilizer, and space?
What? I'm not really deeply tapped into the
Have you heard about this?
activism scene against golf courses. I haven't heard of it.
Okay.
I can imagine it. Like I'm sure they do take up a lot of resources. You want to just play the drop instead of me saying it?
I'll figure.
Man, I don't know.
It's got to be like a
Man, I don't know. Man, I don't know. Man, I don't know. Man, I don't know.
Right. Was that enough times? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's a good question.
It is a good question. I mean, because you are kind of you're a big science guy.
Yeah.
Are you a big environmental guy?
I'm a big science guy. I like the environment. I did like Laudato Si.
I like the environment. Yeah,
man.
exactly. So it is interesting. I have heard things about like the amount of water or fertilizer or space, like devoted to these spaces that ultimately do they really give and help the environment and the society and different things like that.
I think you can make that argument
against anything.
About pretty much anything. And apparently they do. Provide something, because otherwise nobody would want to use them.
Yeah, they provide money for like $50 for playing 18 holes or whatever it is. So.
I don't play on those courses.
There you go.
But
that's what we really want for Christmas, people. Get us in Cowboys golf course, me and Father Paul. Boom.
Yeah.
We'll auction off our time with someone.
Yeah, we absolutely will. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and defend golf courses when you compare them with
right, we're not comparing it to Yellowstone. Oh, I was going
sorry.
a national park.
Like a place in desperate poverty that I could send those resources to Haiti, or I could put them on the golf course. I'm definitely not going to choose the golf course.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's without knowing any of the data, I just don't know if the activism argument would have a whole lot of teeth there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll look into it.
It's worth looking into. I'm not making any promises, but
most likely we won't. But
it is an interesting question. I appreciate you bringing it up. And if nothing else, it's really just paralyzed me right now.
I love it. I love the fact of paralyzing questions for Father Paul. I love that I now only end up playing once every few years when I get a free go. So it's more tormenting to you than to me. So I think on that one, we got to go. So email us, prodigalandthepriest@gmail.com, stannparish.org/PTP. We love you all. Take care.
God bless.